Eddie, soften the edges is something that Hillary Clinton knows something about. Whatever the research shows, we know what that is. Also, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, says, this just came out, he talked to members. He thinks they understand this ought to be an election about the comparison of policies, not personalities. He was asked specifically about the DEI comments, and he says this is not about personalities. Not exactly a denunciation.
No, and Speaker Johnson can't put that genie back in the bottle. That toothpaste is out of the tube. And what do I mean by that? The MAGA movement has had at its core, at its root, a kind of grievance, a sense that the browning of the nation has thrown everyone into kind of a panic about, is this the America that they themselves know? And so Donald Trump has appealed, since he came on the stage, since he came down those escalators, to the ugly dimensions of American life. And so the idea that DEI or CRT or affirmative action can no longer be appealed to, that you can now go back to racial dog whistles and not explicit racial grievance, I don't think that makes any sense given what MAGA has been all about since its beginnings.
All right, I want to talk a little bit, Brendan, about former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, because he has a different take than Speaker Johnson. Here's what he said.
Attacks I've heard Republicans give that are totally stupid and dumb to do is the DEI attack. That is a mistake for any leader to go out and say that on the Republican side. This DEI, that seems like a petty. Look, I disagree with DEI, but she is the Vice President of the United States. She is the former U.S. Senator. These congressmen that are saying it, they're wrong in their own instance.
All right.
So, Brendan, that's from a man, by the way, who was Speaker just in October. What can you say about the shift we've seen in the party just over these months?
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with Kevin McCarthy. These folks just can't help themselves. Look, it's important to appreciate your median House Republican has no idea what it takes to win a general election. All they ever care about is winning a primary, and guffawing at DEI jokes at a county GOP barbecue is very different than going out and winning the White House. This campaign on the Republican side has been a departure in that it has been marked somewhat by discipline by the Trump campaign, that they've been able to stay focused on the message that they wanted to do. If this becomes a new sideshow for Republicans, always having to track down the latest House member who makes a racially tinged remark, it's going to backfire. The people who are going to win this election are not people at those county GOP barbecues. It's people in the middle, who educated women who are going to be repelled by comments like that. I think they would be very wise to listen to Kevin McCarthy there.
It's a tradition, I think, Eddie, and I don't know if it's even makes sense or not, because we tend to think that history shows us vice presidential picks don't change any race, right? People vote the top of the ticket, generally speaking. But is it clear what might work for Kamala Harris, what might not, who it might be, who could help appeal to where they think there are gaps in her appeal, and who doesn't?
So let's pull back just for a quick second. So remember the way in which many Republicans characterize Joe Biden's choice of Kamala Harris. She's a DEI choice. She only was chosen because she's a black woman, a woman of color, But it's not a DEI choice if you're thinking about the Midwest. Do I need to appoint a guy who's from Ohio? Do I need to get someone from the South, Lloyd Bentsen, in order so I can get Texas? Those aren't viewed as DEI decisions, even though we're talking about region. And here we're asking the question, how might she think of a ticket that could appeal to a broad swath of America, that could deepen her chances in, say, a swing state? Is that read as a DEI choice? Of course not, because what's underneath this, what's underneath the entire debate has always been race. So when we ask this question in terms of normal politics, traditional politics, it's okay to ask it. Right, Chris?
Yeah.
When we ask it in this instance, here we are again, back at square one. So I think she has to make a choice for a vice president that will expand the map, that will deepen her chances, make her chances even better, and ignore the foolishness that's coming out from the other side.
You know, Brendan, a source also told Yamiche that the campaign is batting around internally which potential running mates will appeal in short order to that 1 or 2% of voters in that handful, 6 battleground states who will likely decide the election. We, again, usually hear vice presidential picks don't matter, but I wonder if, given the shortened time period, if given the fact that people are looking more and more at change, how crazy change is, does a vice presidential pick matter more this year?
Well, as somebody who worked for Paul Ryan in 2012 and we lost Wisconsin, I agree that they don't matter too much. I think it would be wise for the Harris campaign to take a minute and figure out exactly what the battlefield is. We know that when Biden was the nominee, they had to win the Midwest, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Now, if that is still the state of play and that is what they think they have to do, that may lead you in one direction. Now, the playing field could be completely different. If Kamala Harris can energize different demographics, younger voters, Black voters, Hispanic voters, in a way that Joe Biden couldn't, maybe Arizona is now in play. Maybe Georgia is in play, and that may call for something different. The other question is, do you want to lean into the change? Do you want to maybe put a Gretchen Whitmer and say, we're going to have 2 women on this ticket? Or do you want to do something that says, we're going to play it safe, we're going to hedge a little? I don't think they know enough yet. I'm sure they're doing all kinds of surveys and polling right now to figure that out. But those are the questions I think they need to answer before they make any decisions.
Eddie, let's talk about President Biden tonight. He's going to talk about his decision to drop out of the race, but also what he can do in the final 6 months. Our NBC colleague Jenna Bush, after he dropped out of the race, daughter and granddaughter of presidents, right, spoke emotionally about when her own grandfather lost his reelection bid and said, we have to remember, politicians are actually human. Right. Their families are actually human. And it made me think about when he called in to headquarters, to Kamala Harris, he spoke briefly. He spoke incredibly supportively. He spoke what sounded like from the heart. And then when she gave him an opportunity, when she came out to jump in, he barely did. He let her have that moment. Doug Emhoff talked about when they first met the family. He called Doug's, the second gentleman's parents, right? It's tonight also a chance. I'm not going to pretend that this could be a healing moment for the nation in any large sense, but to go back to what he said when he first ran for president, that he wanted to bring people together. He wanted it not to be such a divisive country.
You know, we talk about deficits a lot in this country, but we don't talk about the deficits of statesmen and women, people who model what it means to be committed to the ideals of the country, magnanimity, right, decency. And so I think what President Biden is going to do tonight is of course, he's going to reveal how all too human he is. But my instincts tell me that they're going to offer us a language to imagine ourselves as better people, as a better country, right? Could it very well be the case that we're at the cusp of a moment, Chris, where our differences are not undergirded by our hatreds, where our differences can just be? And maybe this decision, a decision to my mind as a student of the American project, a decision that is of the sort of George Washington's decision, not to assume power infinitely, right? This decision shows us a level of sacrifice, a level of dedication, a level of decency that maybe can inspire us to be different kinds of people together. And I think the language tonight is not only about him personally, it's about us as a country. Can we be together differently? And maybe President Biden can give us a language, a pathway for that.
And even maybe as we go back and we see people going back to the old tropes, we can also look at the fact that not only do we have a groundbreaking woman at the top of the ticket, she's talking about potentially a gay running mate. How different would that be in this country? Brendan Buck, Eddie Glaude, thank you.